there's one thing I learned from being a gardener is never take soil from outside and bring it inside. Last year I had all kinds of pests back in my grow room back here. I had aphids, I had ants, I had fungus gnats. They were everywhere and they obliterated several of my small seedlings. And when that happens, you get behind the 8 ball real quick. So let's combat all of that by making our own little seed starter mix. Look at that nice fluffy soil. So take it from me, don't bring any soil from outside and try to garden with it inside. You're just asking yourself for more trouble. If you have to do anything, go to the store and get yourself some seed starting mix like this. This bag right here costs about $6. Seed starting mix, about 8 quarts of it. Or you can do what I'm going to do this year and start a DIY do-it-yourself mix. Now there are several ways we could do this mix. There are several variations to this mix, but we have several ingredients that we're going to use today. You could probably limit yourself to about 2 of these ingredients if you wanted to, but I'm going to be using all these ingredients. Well, 4 of these ingredients starting off, and then we'll get to the point where we're going to be using the other ones later on down in the season. So you might ask, what are the stars of the show here? This guy is the star of the show for me. Now, this is peat moss. This is a huge thing of peat moss. It cost me about $13. I will get many of these bags out of this. I am going to say you can also use cocoa coir. Cocoa coir is probably a little bit more sustainable than the peat moss. It really depends on where you live. For cocoa coir to be flown up to me, it's probably not as sustainable as what peat moss would be for it to be trucked down to me. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're environmentally friendly. Depends on where you're at, things are going to be differently sustainable. So like I said, this is 2.2 cubic foot of peat moss, compressed peat moss. This thing is heavy. It is going to get us a lot of seed starting mix made. Now, I do not suggest that you just use peat moss by yourself. I would do a combination of either peat moss and some perlite. The perlite keeps everything nice and fluffy. This will keep air going through the soil so you don't have compression in the soil. Or you can use some vermiculite. Now the vermiculite is going to make things a little bit fluffy, but not that fluffy. But the vermiculite will definitely hold on to that moisture. That moisture will seep into all the little pores and different things like that into the vermiculite. So that'll keep things a little bit moist for you. Now, if you are going to use that peat moss, I highly suggest that you put some lime in there. This lime here, about a tablespoon of this, 2 tablespoons of this per batch is all you need. This lime is going to last me a long time. I know it's the smallest of the bags, but it's going to last me a long time. So we have all those ingredients, and then in the future, when we're up potting, I'm going to probably put some organic fertilizer in there of some sort. This right here is some plant starter fertilizer, good for starts. Typically, you don't want to have fertilizer in your seed starting mix starting out because those seeds, when they were developed by the mother plant, they actually have enough nutrients in there to start growing, to start nurturing. It's kind of like the umbilical cord. It's got everything in that seed, everything that plant needs to get a good start. And once it gets a good start, it's going to reach its roots out and then start feeding on other things in the soil. That is the time when you're going to need to start spreading out and putting some different nutrients into the soil. And the last thing that you're going to need for this is going to be a big pot. Trust me, the bigger the better, the more money you're going to save. So I will say, let's start out with analyzing this stuff. This stuff is fantastic. It's sterile. You're not going to have bugs in it. You're going to have a great way to start seeds. If you are starting like 8 shelves of seeds like I am, seedlings, you're going to go through this quite a bit, especially if you're going to be up potting plants. I probably went through one year, I probably went through 10 bags of this. This is $50 of stuff right here. 60 bucks probably of stuff right here that I went through. That's not really cost effective. So that's why we're doing our own seed mix. Now you could go out and buy a huge bag of potting soil mix like this for about 10 bucks. 5 bucks, 10 bucks. This is probably about maybe four of these maybe. But the problem with this is, this stuff here, I'm gonna make a mess. This stuff here has all kinds of little wood chips in there. It's not real fine material. You're gonna have to sift this out to be able to get in there so your seeds don't hit a stick or hit a piece of mulch when they're growing up. This stuff is fine. The stuff that we're gonna be making is gonna be real particularly fine too as well. So that's why you wanna try to stay away from this stuff here. This is probably better for up potting if you're gonna do some up potting. So if you're paying attention, I put all the prices up on the screen with all the ingredients that I use. Came to a total of just about 50 bucks. Now, one of these bags here, 6 bucks. I have enough stuff in my ingredients with that $50 to make 12 bags right here. So $50 versus 72. And I'll have plenty of ingredients left over. The one that shies short on me is this $4 bag of perlite. Now, I buy about 2 or 3 more bags of these, which I probably could, which would be another additional, well, this is about 5 bucks a bag. Another additional 3 bags, let's say, would be another $15. I'll be able to successfully just about double that, almost up to 20 some bags of this for maybe 65 bucks. So that kind of gives you an idea of the math of the whole situation on what you're saving and what you can do. We're in pretty good shape money-wise. Here we are. We're trying to save a little money, make it our own. We know what's going into this stuff, so we know what's going into our plants. So that's kind of the whole key to this whole potting mix stuff. Let's get started, and let's show you how we're going to mix this stuff up. Now, there are several different ways you could do this. There's several different ratios you could do. Typically, you're going to do a 1-to-1 with the vermiculite and the perlite. And then after that, it's however much peat moss you want to put in there. If it's a 2-to-1-to-1, 2 parts of peat moss to the 1-to-1 on this stuff, or if it's going to be 3 or 4, just kind of depends on what floats your boat. So we're going to make a huge bin of this. And I got, for a reference point here, I got a gallon jug of sitting here, so we can measure out this all in 1 gallon increments. And I'll kind of give you an estimate on what we're looking at here. I figured we use the gallon since this other guy over here is cubic quarts. So there's one of the perlite. Ooh, let's make a mess there, Douglas. Got the perlite in there. Put the vermiculite in there with spilling some. And as you can see, got a good mixture here. Because we're trying to save money, let's get all this off the table. All right, there's your good mixture right there. And now let's get the peat moss in there, the cocoa core. All right, got 1 thing of peat moss here. Mix that guy in there. Give you guys an idea here. That's a 1-to-1 ratio. That right there, yeah. Let's go more with some of the cheaper stuff. All right, number 2. And yes, you do want to make sure this is mixed up pretty well. Still a lot of perlite and vermiculite in there. We're gonna go for another load. 3. And just because I can, we're going to do 4 of them in here. Okay, and the last thing that we need to put in this mix is going to be lime. Now I use 4 gallons of peat moss. So I'm going to use about 4 tablespoons of this fast-acting lime. It's basically 1 tablespoon of lime per gallon of peat moss. And what that does is it kind of neutralizes that peat moss a little bit. Peat moss is acidic. So the acidity in the peat moss is going to be pretty high. We like maybe a 4. This will bring it more up to like a 5 or a 6, probably more like a 6. So you don't want to have the pH off from the get-go. All right, there you have it. We have our own little bit of soil DIY. The next step is to get this wet, and basically you want this so you can wring it out like a wet sponge. Once we get this wet, we're ready to plant. So if you're liking what I'm doing here, please consider clicking that subscribe button. Leave me a comment down below. Have you guys ever made your own soil mix at home? What recipe did you use? Has it worked out real well for you? Has it saved you some money? Or is it just too big of a hassle? I can get where it can be too big of a hassle sometimes if you don't have the time. But I have faith in this. It's kind of a pride thing. I do and enjoy doing that. As always, click that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. Cheers, everybody, and God bless.